Hello, friends, and welcome back to Like Anime, an anime show where we talk about anime. My name's George, and with me, as always, is Tony.
Anime.
Anime, tacos,
Tacos. Anime tacos.
There's not a lot of representation of tacos in anime, I'll say.
That's true. If they did something in like Okinawa, it'd probably be like the taco salad thing.
Oh, is that a thing?
I think that's popular in Okinawa.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's not what we would call taco salad. It's not the same as the thing that we would order and expect to see when we order taco salad, but it's similar, I guess. It's just a salad with taco meat on it, basically.
Right on.
It's pretty much a taco salad, I guess, right?
I'm full, but I'm ready for it.
All right. Well, I'll be right back. Let me go cook some up.
And while we're waiting on that, let's jump right in and talk about some anime. We got... What week is this, Tony?
I'm cooking tacos.
Oh, he's busy. Week 12. We're on week 12. This is crazy.
I knew you'd figure it out.
We are almost... I had to look at a paper and read some words.
I know. It's right there at the top of the page where it always is.
I know, and I'm bad at it. I'm bad. I'm new to reading. That's why I watch anime and read subtitles. But anyway, week 12, we're almost at the end. We're going to be ending a couple shows this episode.
There's a couple shows ending. Well, maybe just one this episode. Oh no, two this episode.
We got two.
Yeah, you're right.
One of them's an ONA that's not a full length
yeah
series, but everything else pretty much has one episode left. Some have two, and of course some others are pouring over into next season.
Yep.
But I'm excited to wrap this up, and we're so close. But without further ado, let's talk about Super Cub.
Yes, Super Cub, episode 11 of 12, titled "She's Fallen and She Can't Get Up." No, that's not actually the title, but
that's great. That should have been the title.
Did you like this "she"?
Yes, yes.
She, but also she.
I love it. I didn't think of it.
I thought I was quite clever when I wrote that.
I wish I would have thought of it.
Yeah, so she's fallen and she can't get up, and so Koguma has to go and save she.
And she does so. I don't really understand what happened because her injuries didn't seem to be that severe once she was out of the sort of ravine that she had fallen into. But maybe she was so
stunned.
Cold. Yeah, she was so cold. Yeah,
she couldn't get up.
Freezing.
She said, "I don't know."
And she does have a small body, and she's younger. Seems younger than them. So Koguma goes to save her, and she gets all wet in the process. And
wait, she?
No, Koguma.
Oh, right.
Well, of course she is soaking wet.
Right, yeah.
They both get wet.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Koguma was very helpful in this, in all of this, but she was also kind of, I don't know, distant and kind of cold, I mean, she was literally cold, but just, in a distant way, because she gets her out of there, and then, she's like, "Are you going to call an ambulance or emergency services?" And Koguma's like, "No, I'm just going to take you back to my place. You'll have a bath. We'll get you some food. You'll be fine." And so that's what they proceed to do. And then she enlists.
How does she get her back to, how does Koguma get she back to her place on her cub?
Well, at first she's like, "I can't carry you out of this ravine, so I'll just kind of help you, drag you out."
Yeah, and you have to crawl out by yourself.
Yeah, and so they get out, and then she's like, "Oh, now I can carry you," and she plops her into the front basket of her cub, which was a offhanded joke in a previous, I think, last week's episode.
Right.
Where they're like, "Yeah, we'll go on a trip. We'll just put you in the,
in the front basket."
And she was, I think a bit humiliated by that, although there's no one around.
She was probably also freezing to death as Koguma drove back to her house.
Yes, because the basket, of course, being in front of the windshield.
Generally, that's where you put a basket, yes. Literally on the front where all of the wind is going to hit her, and she's soaking wet and already cold.
Yeah. Add an air current to that.
She probably would have died in reality. I don't know.
Yeah,
or at least lost consciousness.
That's a good point. I mean, I disagree with Koguma. I think, of course, in an instance like this in real life, especially, like, you should absolutely call emergency services. Like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't
She
just.
should have, as soon as, I mean, well, she should have called emergency services in the first place
I
instead of calling
suppose.
Koguma.
Yeah.
But then once she called Koguma, Koguma should have called and said,
Yeah.
hey, she's out here on this
Yeah.
road or whatever, and then gone looking for her. And if you found her, then you could let emergency services know. But,
Yeah.
you know.
I don't fault she too much because she was in a panic state and you know, was immobile, you know. Yeah, but Koguma, and I don't know if this is supposed to, because I was thinking while watching it, like, she's kind of feels like she's on the spectrum a little bit of, like, you know, missing social cues, especially in this type of situation where it's like there are certain things that you should do, but she was very steadfast on, you know, doing it her way. And but anyway, in this episode, you know, she managed to get her back, and then she called Reiko in the midst of that and had her go retrieve the bike.
Yes.
Alex Moulton bike, which I meant to look up because I'm like, I assume that's like a real bike, but I don't know.
Presumably, I don't know either, but I assume that it is. And so Reiko goes and fishes the bike out of the river/creek. I don't know what they call it a river, I think, but it wasn't that big.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
I mean, it was winter, I guess, so maybe there's just not as much water flowing.
That could be. It's really cold and okay.
Yeah.
But she gets the bike, and it's pretty much, I mean, it's still in one piece, but it's pretty bent up and...
It's a little wrecked, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's this whole scene where Reiko eventually shows up, and in the meantime, Koguma gets all she's clothes off and washes them, and they're hanging to dry, and eventually, and then she is very, very Japanese, but, very overly polite and feels bad that she's helping at all and wants to, is just, constantly feeling insecure about it. And Koguma doesn't really help. She doesn't really do anything to, like, no, it's fine. Like, she doesn't really have, like, this maternal, like, side
You're being
to her.
Silly little girl.
She's almost like, like a distant dad would be or something. Like, I'm going to help you and I'm going to, do all the things that I think should be done, but I'm not going to really, try to comfort you at all.
I mean, she runs a hot bath for her.
Oh, that's true,
And when I say she, I mean Koguma. This is very confusing.
She runs a hot bath, and then, which was nice, and she's very, thankful for all this. And then when she gets out, Reiko's there at that point and wants to get in. And then there's a scene where, like, Koguma is, like, hanging up she's clothes and has her underwear, and she gets really embarrassed again by that and takes them and, like, I'll do it. But yeah, I mean, that was, like, kind of the first half of the episode.
Yeah.
And then, there was a scene too where Koguma, actually, yes, this is worth mentioning. First time in the series, she cooks. Because all before we've seen her use her rice cooker, we've seen her use these, like, bags that you just microwave, or or a lot of cases she would just eat them room temperature.
At school, yeah.
Yeah, at school. But we hadn't seen a lot of her at home, like, cooking a meal, and she had, it's emergency, but she had guests over, and she made udon or ramen or something, some sort of noodle.
It's curry udon, right?
Was it udon? Okay, I was pretty sure.
It was definitely udon, and I think it was curry udon.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then while they're sitting down,
that's what you were supposed to make for dinner tonight, but you didn't get that memo.
I mean, I got it, but there wasn't enough time or motivation. But fair enough. I'll put it up on my list.
Yeah, the problem is we haven't been able to find gluten-free udon noodles, which we would need to do.
Yeah, we do have some gluten-free ramen.
Right, which is why I sent you the gluten-free ramen thing or not gluten-free, but the ramen curry from Midnight Diner Tokyo Stories.
He didn't send me a recipe. It was just a link to an episode that didn't play. Or, just info on an episode.
Oh, well, you probably could have played it on Netflix.
Oh, is it on Netflix?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I looked it up on Just Watch, but nothing came up. So I was
really?
I was like, all right. And I searched YouTube as well, but still nothing came up.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
Anyway,
there was a scene that I'm trying to get to where Koguma serves this meal, and then Reiko gets up and looks in the fridge, and she finds some hard-boiled eggs that Koguma had made, and she grabs 3, and for each of them to have in their curry.
Mm-hmm.
And Koguma does not like this at all. Like she has the vibe of "don't touch my eggs." Like, what is wrong with you? And Reiko's just like, "What? Chill out. Here's yours. Like, shut up." That was a cute moment that I liked. But yeah, and then...
But then she gave Koguma an egg for her curry udon as well, and Koguma was like, all right, and ate it.
Yeah.
Somewhat aggressively ate it, but,
Yeah, she she begrudgingly ate it, I think. But so I guess that's supposed to show that she, even though she has like this caring side, even though it's not very maternal, she still has a line of like, I live alone, this is my stuff, and you're touching my eggs.
Don't touch my stuff.
Don't touch my eggs.
Don't touch my stuff.
I'm feeding you udon curry, but
it's bad enough you're in my house. Now you're gonna go touching my stuff. Actually, the whole thing about the refrigerator thing, like if you ever do go to Japan and you end up in someone's house, don't just go and open their fridge to find something for yourself. You should always ask them, because going into someone's fridge is like big no faux pas. Unless they, give you permission or something.
Of course.
You should ask. But,
and honestly, like I
mean, you shouldn't even ask, actually, but
I didn't know that specifically about Japanese culture, but I think in general, like in American culture, like that's also a thing. Like unless if it's your first or second time, like, visiting someone's house, you don't generally like raid their fridge, right? Like,
I mean, that's
considered
true,
rude.
But it's, I think it's more extreme in Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, normally,
that.
I don't know. I'm just imagining a situation going over to like a friend's house and, saying, hey, have you got any beer? And they're like, yeah, it's in the fridge. I don't think that would happen in Japan very much. It would
Probably
be
not.
The person would go and get the beer for you out of their fridge, and
And that checks out to me because there's a intense like element of politeness, in Japan. So that it kind of ties along with that. But yeah, but Reiko like knows Koguma well enough to raid her fridge, I think. But she
maybe not by Japanese standards.
Maybe not. But anyway, we move on from there. This is another interesting thing where like they never contact Shi's parents during this whole night. They just go over the next day and are like and explain everything. And the parents don't really care.
Did they not? I think for some reason I thought Reiko,
she was in charge of that or something.
Talk to them or something, or I don't remember exactly.
I don't remember it explicitly stated. Maybe I missed it. And like
didn't she take the bike over there though?
No, she took the bike back to Koguma's. Yeah, because there's that whole scene where they like, while they're eating, they kind of abruptly tell her about the bike and break it to her. I don't know, unless I missed something. I just thought that was kind of odd. But
it might have just been like a little tiny thing, but I thought it was mentioned that it was that Reiko had called them or something and told them that she was going to be staying over at Koguma's or something. I don't remember.
Maybe. Yeah, I could have missed that. But regardless, the next day they all go back over there and explain the situation, and the parents are very thankful, and they give them this pass to have free coffee for a year, and then they add on sandwiches.
Yeah, and this is where I have my next note.
Oh, sweet.
Is Shi's parents give Koguma and Reiko 1 year of free coffee and sandwiches at Beu. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's French. And my question is, how does Reiko's contribution even come close to equaling Koguma's contribution here? Like, she went and she fished a bike out and then, showed up and took a hot bath. But Koguma literally saved their daughter's life, right? I mean, she probably could have done a better job of it, but, she did. She managed to accomplish the life-saving thing that she set out to do.
It's like the opposite of guilty by association. It's like, goodwill by association. Like,
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, because they're all tight friends. So, I mean, it's not like they're strangers and like, so it's like they come there all the time anyway. So
that's true. That's true.
It's like, you know what? We like you, you're part of our family now, or, or we've just got closer. But I hear you. Like on paper, she did not really contribute that much.
Yeah.
But she was there and she helped. So I don't know.
Minimally.
It seemed rude to be like, all right, Koguma gets this, but I don't know about that other one.
I mean, they should have just given it to Koguma.
Yeah. That's fair.
I don't know. And maybe they give Reiko something else. I don't know.
And we actually watched this episode together, and I was like, and we didn't talk too much about it, saving for the podcast, but I did comment like, Like, if one of us had that, would you eat anywhere else for a
never,
year? Like,
never.
like, come on. Like, I'm going to take full advantage
I'd go
of
there in
this.
the morning for breakfast, and then I'd have them make me a lunch for me to take with me to school. And then after school, I'd come for a snack, and then I'd just hang out there until dinner time, and then I'd go home.
Yep.
That would be my life. My life would exist within that cafe from then on.
And they'd be like counting the days down till the year is up. But yeah, these girls are too.
Be inviting friends over, like, hey, free sandwiches, come on.
Yeah, this is how. What are the limitations on this? So it's kind of fun.
I need you to cater a party for 1,000 people. I'd like all the coffee and sandwiches you can provide for 1,000 people, please. Is that?
You just try to push it as far as
covered,
you can.
Is that covered by the 1 year?
Like, I'm just trying to put you out of business.
I saved your daughter's life. You're gonna say no to me?
Yeah, it's gonna cost you your business.
But fortunately for them, Koguma and to a lesser extent Reiko aren't those type of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, go ahead and say what you're gonna say.
Yeah, I'm just trying to round out this because that's most of it. But then there's a part where Koguma has a realization that she remembers before Koguma even got a super cub. We're talking first episode. She was like biking up a hill, and a scene that I had forgotten, but they show this scene where she passes her on a bike, and it's just all like just happy and full of life, seemingly.
Yeah, there's like a whole bunch of people from her school are passing her while she's biking to school in the morning. Yeah,
but she remembered she stood out for some reason, and so it seemed like, or maybe it's just revealing it to us, but it seemed like Koguma also remembered her when they met, for like the cultural festival and all that. But so it was, interesting. Okay. And then I did like at the end they have there's like, oh, the cherry blossoms are happening, we should all go, we have to travel to it, and like, you can go as well, and initially they don't say that, but then they do, and they're all happy, and and that's where this ended, of like, we're going to the cherry blossoms. There's probably something else with that, but I liked it because I mentioned before with the ending, the animation to the ending theme has a lot of cherry blossom, like shows cherry blossom buds that haven't blossomed yet, and I had compared that to what I thought a lot of this first half of the show was building up to, with Koguma and her social anxiety and her kind of her journey, her blossom, socially. And so I like that this, it's going to end with this trip to the cherry blossom. Seems, very literal and figurative metaphor for Koguma. I don't know how emotionally impactful it's going to end, but I like the sentiment, at least.
Yeah, the next episode is titled Super Cub, so don't really know what it's about, I guess.
That's the name. That's the official name.
Yeah,
just Super Cub.
Yeah, that's the episode title, is Super Cub. Yep.
Well, that could have been the name of every episode, to be honest. But
it's the name of the show, so I guess, right?
Covers a lot of bases.
What was this one actually called? Because I made up my fake title, but I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I didn't write it down, but definitely the most dramatic.
Something about a short spring or something.
Well, yeah. What? That was like a long, like waiting for spring or something like that. Or like spring isn't coming
something
fast
about
enough.
spring. Yeah. Don't remember.
And even like at one point, she was like pleading to Koguma, like, "Can't you make this winter go away?" And she's like, I don't do that.
Not my job."
So that's all I got.
All right, so yeah, that does it for Super Cub. And next up is So I'm a Spider, So What? Kumo desu ga nani ka? Episode 23. So I forget the title of this episode, but it wasn't called I'm Not in This One like the previous one that she wasn't in. But Kumiko is not in this one unless she is secretly. But we'll get to that. So at the beginning, Ariel basically reveals that the Imperial Army was just being used as a distraction so that the Demon Army could attack the Elf Village and ultimately try and kill Potimas, the leader of the Elves. Because, I don't know, reasons, I guess. It's kind of been explained a little bit that there's some bad blood between them, but not in any sort of detail, I guess. Anyway, and then so the big battle between Hugo and Shun gets over pretty quickly with Hugo losing because he sucks and Shun doesn't suck quite as much. And then so Sophia's there and she's like, all right, I guess I have to fight Shun now. And she's like, yeah, you can bring all your friends too. It's fine. Go ahead. Because she's got her magic canceling thing. So any magic they try and use isn't really going to do anything. So, they all are like attacking her and she's not really having a problem with it. And then during the battle, she like knocks Shun down or something. And it's obvious that she probably could have killed him, but instead it seems like she's just sort of toying with him, trying to wear him out. And she sort of confirms that, she's not supposed to kill any reincarnations. Her master has told her not to kill any reincarnations. And since she's working for the demon army, we assume Demon Lord Ariel is the one that told her that. And not sure why at this point, other than we sort of know that in the past, there's been some interaction between Ariel and I almost said Koguma, Kumoko. But the last we saw of that was Ariel basically killing Kumoko, as far as we could tell. But we know that that's probably not the case. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what to make of it, but I feel like Kumoko's influence on Demon Lord Ariel, because of her body brain that is inside Demon Lord Ariel, is affecting Demon Lord Ariel's judgment, and that's why Demon Lord Ariel. How many times do I need to say this? I'll just say Ariel from now on, and that's why Ariel is maybe saying not to kill any of the reincarnations.
Okay. She's like influencing her, thought process.
And this is 15 years from that happening, but she's still influencing her somehow. So there's got to be something. There's something going on between those two, between Kumiko and Ariel, and just not exactly sure what yet. Anyway, and then so Wrath, the guy we saw a few episodes ago, who like showed up at the end of the episode, and it was a big dramatic reveal, but we had no idea who he was because we hadn't seen him before. Well, he shows up again and then says who he is. So at least now we know who he is. And he's working for the demon army too, I guess. And he's also a reincarnation.
Oh.
One that I think Sensei had said that he was dead or something, or I don't know. All of the reincarnations had assumed he was dead for some reason. I don't remember exactly. I don't pay enough attention to the human stuff, and that's all this episode is. So anyway, Wrath and Sophia, other reincarnations, are talking to Shun and the reincarnations that are with him and saying, yeah, we work for the demon army, but the elves are the real problem in this world. Like, they're jerks. But they've basically, Shun and all his people have basically drank the Kool-Aid of the elves, because Sensei has been sort of an influence on them, and she was born in this world as an elf. So she's bought into the whole elf thing, I guess. But yeah, we get a little more information about that when the elves teleport in a whole bunch of freaking mecha robot things with giant machine guns on them and stuff. Like, what? So that's a little concerning. Like, they're just, bringing in their droid army like the Empire did in that movie. What was that movie called? Anyway.
Not important.
It's not anime.
It wishes.
So anyway, and then that pretty much ends the episode, and then we get post credits. We see Ariel and the Lady in White, as she's been referred to, which Shun has a grudge against her because he's been told that she's the one that killed his brother Julius. But I don't think we saw that, so we don't know if that actually happened or not. And my suspicion is that the Lady in White is maybe actually Kumiko.
Oh, okay.
In the 15 years in the future thing. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just making stuff up there. It's entirely possible that's not true, but that's my impression. Like, she was framed in a way like she's important, sort of like Wrath was, I guess. And it turns out he's just a dude named Wrath who's, used to be, is a reincarnation as well. So I guess maybe it was important. I don't know. Anyway, that is that episode. No Kumiko unless you count the lady in white, who might be Kumiko. So yeah, speaking of white, how's those Snow White notes?
All right.
You like
Yes.
my segue? That was a good segue.
That was very nice. And so you just talked about the penultimate episode of this season of
Yes.
Spider. But for those Snow White notes, this is the final episode. We have reached it. And even at the very end, at the end of the end credits, they show the end. Or they say, it says like final or something. It doesn't say like see you next time or end of season. It says final. So I'm like, oh, I want more. And in the spirit of that, since it's finishing and since this was the last episode, I'll briefly talk about what happened. And then I will briefly, after that, talk about my thoughts.
And then I will briefly make fun of it.
Sure.
I don't know. We'll see.
See what happens. So last week, the cliffhanger was Setsu finally started performing, which was nice. I was expecting them to wait for this final episode for him to start performing. But it ended, the cliffhanger last week was that he initially, because his mom kind of like got into his head and kind of skewed, what his real intentions. And I want to get into his relationship with his parents more, but he started playing like his grandpa, trying to channel that. And then during the course of that performance, where the cliffhanger ends, he realizes that it's not like he's not pulling from a genuine place, and so like he's all these memories start flooding in of things he's experienced throughout this season. And he uses that as inspiration to, in the middle of his performance, kind of segue into his sound. And so the effect of that is this abrupt change musically, but then the effect it has on the crowd is pretty, on the audience as a whole is pretty impactful. Like by the time he finishes, and the performance itself was pretty great. Like once he actually like was playing his sound, it was really entertaining. It was one of my favorite performances of this whole like competition with the group included. And so he ends it, and crowd goes nuts, and it's like went really well. And then after that we get another performance from someone who's like not really not important, just kind of a filler one. And someone even says like wow, like is everyone's still high off of what Setsu just did, and it isn't really this guy isn't breaking through that. And then after that, we get to the final performance, which what is this guy's name?
The final performance? So there's no one else. So there's no Mai.
No Mai. Yes,
Okay.
You're right. I
Thank you. I love hearing that. Can you say it again?
Tony was right. Everyone is shocked, but I wanted Mai to perform, so there was some of that there. But you were right. Ultimately, she only did the group. He was not, approved for the
I
individual.
thought that's what had been said, but
yeah.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
And I wish she would have, but she was in the audience, and so you got to see some of her
reactions. And stuff,
yeah. But anyway, her brother is the final performer, Tanuma Soichi.
And Setsu's half brother or something, right? Or
yes, they are
or
adopted.
Yeah, I don't remember.
By his biological father, so I'm not sure
okay.
what you would call that. Adopted.
Half step adopted. I don't know.
Yeah, it's confusing.
Not related. That's what I'd call it. No, I'm just kidding.
Very.
I don't know.
Very loosely related.
I would say half, even though they aren't actually half blood, but being adopted, it counts as good as.
Yeah, they're being raised by. Although he was raised by his grandfather, so whatever. Anyway, so the whole expectation with this guy going is he's already a known figure. I mean, he's around Setsu's age, but he's already has notoriety. He's already won competitions. He's an up and comer. He's hot, and so everyone is expecting him to kill it, and he does. His actual performance, I didn't like as much as Setsu's second half of his performance. But it was interesting. Like, I don't know, like we talked earlier about like, the music compared to the reactions, and, it's based on a manga. And so I imagine the music is being written from a perspective of how people are reacting to it, so it's like, it's an interesting thing of like, backwards engineering or reverse engineering. But anyway, so he goes, and it's it's good or whatever, but I didn't like it as much, and but everyone loves it. And then they announced the I mean, I will say during Setsu's performance while he's finishing, his mom, is in the audience and she makes a disapproving sound like, Shh, or and then after all the performances are done, there's a brief interim, and then they announce the the rankings, and there's 6 performers, and Setsu ended up placing. Everyone thought he was going to be first or second. They were assuming this Soichi guy was going to be first, and so Setsu would be second, but he actually got third.
But they actually ignored the normal numerology things and gave a 0th place because he was so phenomenal. No, okay, so he got third.
He got third. And I think based on the audience reaction, which was very favorable, and also the fact that it's the first time he's been, as an individual performer is being graded, so there's a lot of emotions going on after that's announced. But then it's announced, and the second place was like the kind of cocky guy that kind of called, Setsu out. He got second place. People are kind of surprised by that. And then first was, of course, the Soichi guy that people expected. And so this is where this episode did really good. And this season ended on a high note because of this scene and the subsequent aftermath of it. And so what happens is they call everyone after they announce the win, the rankings. They have everyone come up on the stage and line up in order. And then, of course, like the top 3 placed right in the competition, and so they are each going to be awarded a trophy. And so they start with the bronze, of course, third place, which Setsu was. And Setsu's mom, whose name is Umeko, because she is putting on this, she doesn't have anything to do with the judging aspect of it, but she financially, is throwing the competition, or not throwing, maybe is not the right word, but
sponsoring.
Sponsoring. There you go. And so she is the one that has the honor to hand out these trophies. And the trophies themselves aren't like metal. They look really nice, and they're like engraved on like glass. It's like a almost like 2-dimensional like kind of flame or diamond shape.
I've seen those kind of things before.
Those kind of trophies. And so he's called forward and is going to meet her with the trophy. And as he is about to grab it, she clearly, purposefully drops it. So to make it look like, he, I don't like he dropped it maybe, or and so it of course falls to the ground, smashes, and it's this whole dramatic scene. And then there's sort of a beat of just awkward silence, and then she leans in very close to him, to his ear, and says something to the effect of "You're pathetic, and you have embarrassed me." And it was in that moment that it was a really impactful scene, actually, like the most impactful scene of this whole show, which hasn't given a lot of characterization to Setsu. But in this episode, actually did to me, and there's more with that. But it also gave me like, because of course, like we know that the town he's from and the people that are from that town are very into shamisen. But like this actually, like show versus tell, like illustrated how important shamisen is. Like it's more important than because any other mom, like this is the first time he's like professionally performing. Like any other mom would be. Despite the performance he gave, would, not any other mom, but like a typical mom would be, encouraging and uplifting. And so, be so enamored or pleased to see their child, like, do something like that and put themselves out there. But because he didn't, perform to her liking and didn't, commit fully to his grandpa's sound, like she did expressly demand that. So he was kind of set up in a sense, but anyway, so that happens, and then they quickly cover it up of like the announcer or whatever is like, oh yeah, we're going to his smashed, that was an accident, but he'll get his shipped in the mail later, and they kind of sweep that under the rug, literally, I guess. And then after this, Setsu's kind of walking downstairs, and he's by himself, and he runs into his dad, who is with I don't understand their relation, but he's with the glasses guy. If you remember this guy, he's like an accomplished shamisen player, and he had seen they had went to go see him in an earlier episode, all the main gang, to see him play.
Oh yeah.
And they were really impressed by it. And then they went to see him backstage, and he had Setsu perform in front of him and all this.
Right.
And so he was kind of like with his dad when they approached him, and he was like, congratulations on placing. He started out pretty friendly. And then his dad's right there not saying a word, and Setsu's like, you came all the way here to, see if I could, what I could do. And, you're not going to say anything, like, and so he's kind of provoking him, and the dad says, like, I knew you wouldn't beat Soichi, so I was right. And then he kind of gives him this, like, I don't know, like flippant advice of like, you don't even have someone to train you properly, and I don't know, like trying to a little hope there, but just kind of being standoffish and not really helpful. Where in like the previous episode, the dad had met with the mom, the ex-wife presumably, and been like, I wanna take Setsu and have him under my wing, and they were kind of fighting over this. But instead of really offering an olive branch, he just is kind of distant and standoffish. But then after he walks away, the glasses guy, which I don't know if I wrote down his name, I don't think so. But oh no, I did. Seiru, yeah, Seiryu. I don't know how to say that. It's hard.
Seiryu.
2 U's at the end.
Oh,
there. Seiryu. He starts to like kind of, I mean, Setsu does not ask him to do this, but he just starts, he's like, oh wow, you guys don't get along, and the dad walks away. And it's like, yeah, no shit. And then he starts to kind of give him an analysis, which is truthful, but then it kind of turns into like a pointed like burn, or just, him being a dick to Setsu. But the initially what he says is actually true. He's like, he kind of frames things in a more realistic perspective for him. It's like, even though the audience loved your performance, from a judge's perspective, you switched halfway through. Like, you were not, it's effectually a hard thing to judge, because you completely changed, your playing style, halfway through the performance. Like, if you would have had a consistent thread, and took them on that, journey, and actually committed to one or the other. Like, he literally said, like, it doesn't even matter which one you would have, committed to. You would have placed higher. And this is kind of hard to hear, but then he just keeps talking, and I forget exactly what he said, but just kind of belittling him, even though he had the air of like trying to be helpful and stuff. And meanwhile, due to the what happened on stage with the mom and the trophy, the whole trophy thing, and then having the interaction with the dad, you like, you get a feel for the first time of like what, his exact relationship with his parents. And knowing that his grandpa like mostly raised him, and that he's gone, it's like he has no emotional structure or emotional, he doesn't none of his family is cheering him on, aside from his brother, I suppose. But
support is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, support. Yes, words. So yeah, he doesn't have the emotional support that he used to, at least, or at least should at this point, because he's still not really an adult, in the teenage phase. But anyway, so this all escalates in his head, and then this Seiru guy is not helping, and it's just making it worse and worse. And this all escalates to him, finally breaking away from him, running out of the building. And meanwhile, his friends and stuff, and the girl that, the little girl that lives beneath, works beneath him, his home, they're all kind of, chasing after him, and he just runs out, and it's still daylight. He runs out into the sort of foyer or whatever, and into the grass, and like he just proceeds to have like a mental breakdown. Like, he just kind of loses it. But in his, and he's just like screaming. But in his internal monologue, essentially, he's finally feeling the hunger for his art. Like he's been throughout the whole season, he's been so like wishy-washy and like non-committal, and like not sure of why he's doing what he's doing, but all the while like thinking about what his sound actually is. And so this culminates in like his motivation and his perspective of why he wants to play, and feeling that hunger for it. And that Seiru guy literally asks him, like, do you even feel that hunger? He's like questioning it in him, and like prompting him to feel this. But it ends in like him, and in a very embarrassing way where everyone's kind of looking on in just like horror. And then there's also a scene where I don't remember the guy from the very first episode, because he meets this girl that he lives with shortly, and she has a boyfriend who has a lip piercing. And he shows up for some reason. He was at the competition, and then while Setsu's having his mental breakdown, his panic attack, publicly, is kind of like standing there and sees him, and he's with a couple buddies, and he's like, he's just like, oh my god, this. He says something like, which is interesting to me, like, a spoiled brat or something, just someone. It was just interesting to me, like an onlooker doesn't know what's actually going on in his head and stuff, but is just judging him for that. And his buddy's like, aren't you gonna say something? Like, we came all the way here, and he's like, nah, forget it. And they just walk off. So it's like, damn, that was an interesting layer. But that's essentially the end. And to me, I'm sad if they're not going to make more, adapt more of the manga, because I thought this set up nicely. Like, it took a little too long to do it, but like it set up nicely, like his motivation to actually pursue his craft. But yeah, it was a much needed character, some characterization and motivation, like with his parents and what he's struggling with. It almost seemed like from the start of the show they were purposely not showing you a lot of his personality, like, and so much of it is wrapped up in the family dynamic. I wish they would have like dug into that sooner, and kind of. And also, I've complained about this before, but like the mom just being like, having this quote unquote hot, appearance, and just being like, just she's a bit too much. If she was kind of like a more normal appearing mom who like wasn't a model, like I don't know about that whole aspect of her being a model and like kind of being like full of herself is kind of at odds of like her caring this much about shamisen and being so, rigid and fundamental about like her children, doing what she wants them to do. If she would have been a little more stern, a little more strict, a little more like plain in a sense, but like I don't know, it would have helped me, I think. But anyway, despite that, it was some nice characterization. It made me care more about Setsu. It's a thing that had been a little concerned with, and it left me wanting more at the end. Like not only from the perspective of it kind of ending on this emotional cliffhanger for Setsu, but it was a bit lacking. Like I was talking about, like the way they structured it. They could have got to this a lot sooner. I think they stretched it out just to make this the first season of him coming to terms with why he's doing what the show is supposed to be about. So I don't know. Those are kind of my thoughts on it.
Maybe the next arc was too long for them to do, like, half the season was this and then the second half was something else. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be where it was like not enough to squeeze into one run.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how popular it was. I don't know. I'm guessing if this gets a second season, it's not going to be for a while, and I'll probably be surprised if it does. But I did enjoy it nonetheless. I think I'll still have to give it like a 6, maybe a strong 6 overall. But this last episode was definitely a 7. I wish the show as a whole could have like been that consistent.
Yeah, it was sort of up and down.
Yeah, for sure. And I agreed with a lot of your criticism of it to a point. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those shows, like if it comes back, I will totally watch it and cover it again, but I'll be surprised if it does.
I probably won't.
Yeah, which is fair. Some of those shows, like I said, like I'm giving it a 6. Even a strong 6 is like not a high recommendation. Like that's not enough, to go out and run out and watch it unless you just love shamisen or you like music-based shows. But
yeah, for those, I mean, anyone who's been listening all season probably knows this, but anyone who's just joining us this late in this season probably doesn't know that a 6 is what George considers average instead of a 5. But,
yeah, well, a 6 has something to keep me going. Like to give something an overall of a 6, it's like I don't feel like I wasted my time. Like I feel like there was something here that I was pulling at. And it ended well, and that was a good thing. Like if it would have ended poorly, like it might have went into a 5 territory, but it ended strong. And so yeah, I mean, to me a 5 is just middling, and not really even worth digging into.
Oh, all right. So, yeah, all right, fair enough. So this is better than a 5.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
stand by that. But yeah, we seem to have by one digit seem to have slightly different rating.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what I got for that. So let's say we move on to Eden, on our ONAs and other category.
ONAs, shorts, and other stuff block. Yes, the first thing we have is Eden. This is also a final episode. And so in this episode, Sarah watches some more old videos of Dr. Fields. Dr. Fields being the person who designed the Eden project in the first place. Sarah being the girl who hatched from a capsule and was raised by robots. Anyway, so the AI from Eden 1 tells Sarah that time has expired. And if she doesn't say the password in the next 8 hours, the chances of survival for the 35-ish thousand humans in cryosleep will fall to 3%. So, that deadline that, reaches 0, everyone dies. Well, now she's got another 8 hours, and then like 3% of them will still survive, apparently. Whatever. So the deadline wasn't really a deadline. So Zero, the bad robot, the leader of the bad robots, who is Dr. Fields' consciousness implanted into a robot.
Eden 0.
No, not Eden 0. Zero.
Oh, okay.
Zero, the robot.
0 of the show Eden.
Yeah.
Eden's 0.
Yeah, but there's a place called Eden 0. That's
Oh, okay.
Anyway. Zero activates this giant robot to destroy all the robots who sympathize with humans and who have been helping Sarah and stuff like that.
Okay.
And Sarah has the Eden 1 AI activate an older version of a robot that she had discovered at some point. And then she uses that to try and stop Zero. And then Sarah, they're battling and stuff, duking it out between the two giant robots. And then Sarah has the Eden 1 AI play some voice clips of Dr. Fields' dead wife and daughter that she plays at Zero, who is Dr. Fields' consciousness in a robot, right? And he realizes that he used to be human, so his hatred of humans is unfounded or something like that. I don't remember exactly. Anyway, so then he tells Sarah the password, which is the laws of robotics that we heard at the beginning of the show, which is similar to the 3 laws of robotics we know, but it reads a little differently. Anyway, so then she says them, and humanity is saved. The end.
Really?
Yep.
Oh.
That's pretty much what happens in that episode.
Well, there you go. I mean, the last episode.
Yep.
Well, I'm glad they all were okay then.
Yep. It all worked out. What do you know? Yeah, the concept was interesting enough, and it was fine. It was just barely above mediocre for most of it, to be honest. And it ended fine as well, in that same range. Just there's nothing really spectacular about it. Nothing super inspiring. Nothing super unexpected. So, it's about what you probably would think it would be if you're expecting a fairly mediocre show.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to the next show in our ONAs and shorts and other stuff. We don't have any shorts, and we don't have any more ONAs.
We're wearing pants, though.
Well, you're wearing shorts.
Dang it. Now you've outed me. We do have shorts. Yes, there's a new animated show that has returned, a very highly anticipated, that is not in any way, shape, or form considered anime.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
know
a
about
little
in
bit.
any way, shape, or form. But
Is it like anime?
yeah, it's like anime in that it's anime shun
An anime Ted.
and anime poo. No, I don't know. I'm just trying other things out. It didn't work. Yes, Rick and Morty has
What?
returned for season 5.
Oh
if
my
if you're not aware, I don't know what kind of rock you're living under, but it must be a big one without television or people.
It's a sad rock.
A very sad rock.
But yeah, good show.
Yeah,
It's back.
Rick and Morty season 5. I really just wanted to kind of call it out and say, hey, if you weren't paying attention and didn't get the memo, yeah, episode 1 of season 5 is out. Apparently it's on YouTube, the whole episode on Adult Swim's YouTube channel.
Yeah,
So
crazily
you can
enough.
just go there and watch it if you want to.
and I recommend it. It's good.
And I don't know that we really need to get into the story or anything like that, considering we're not going to be covering it.
Just wanted to shout it out.
Yeah, just wanted to say, it exists.
This episode, we don't have to get too much into it. Like it was for my money, very well written. I was comparing it to some shows we've been covering this season and just being like, damn, like they set up and resolved several things in this episode that other shows would take a whole season to do, and maybe even still fail to do. But yeah, it's great. It's like there's so much. Like watching it, I was like, I need to watch it again because there's so much in it. It's jam packed of stuff, little things.
Yeah, there's always lots of stuff. It's always well written.
Yeah.
If you don't like Rick and Morty, I'm sorry that we mentioned it. Sorry for reminding you that it exists, but you're in the minority, so get used to it. People are going to talk about it.
I steer clear of a lot of social media, a lot of Reddit stuff, et al. But I know some people have been turned off to Rick and Morty based solely on the fan, the cliche fan interact. I don't know, just response, and the fans tend to be annoying. I mean, there's that whole thing of like,
You're saying I'm annoying?
You got to be smart. No, I'm not saying you. I'm just saying like you got to be smart enough to enjoy Rick and Morty. And
yeah, I mean, there's that whole diatribe that was written, but I'm pretty sure that was written tongue in cheek or sarcastically.
Yeah.
To make fun of the perceived fans that.
Yeah, and those fans are out there, but there's they're just a vocal minority, as is the case with lots of things, politics.
Yeah, so if you're not into Rick and Morty, it's probably because you're not smart enough. So go crawl back under your rock, you slug piece of poo.
I don't let that stuff. Wow, I don't let that stuff get to me. But if it has rubbed you the wrong way, I implore you to try to put it aside because it is a consistently very good show.
Yeah. If you've been turned off by all of that and you haven't even watched the show, or maybe you watched it knowing that you were going to hate it, you just try to stop hating it and then watch it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there are people like that like they've just decided they're going to hate the show no matter what. So then they watch it and they're like, oh yeah, I hated it just like I thought I was going to.
Yeah. Well, I've been caught in this too, where it's like if you're late to the party and something reaches a threshold of popularity that is just, astronomical, it kind of colors the perception of people who are uninitiated, where it's like, you start to, it's not fair, but, your interpretation of it largely at that point becomes, all these crazy fans online, screaming about it and, saying ridiculous things that, they're just, hyperbole, but it's a good show. That's it. I mean, it's nothing more than that. It's just a good show.
Yeah. It's a well-written show, and the humor is sometimes a little lowbrow, I guess. So I could see people that don't like it for that reason, I guess. But
yeah. But there's there's lowbrow, there's esoteric humor, there's really tongue-in-cheek humor. It's like they run the gamut, I think. Like, yeah, it's great.
But it's all really intelligent humor. So if you don't find it funny, it's because you're not smart enough.
That's right. Yes. Now that insulates us. We don't have to hear your criticisms because you're just not smart enough.
Anyway, so that does it for our ONAs and shorts and other stuff block, which I think this is probably actually the last episode of it because I have nothing to cover in next episode because Eden's done and we're not going to do Rick and Morty. We're not going to talk about Rick and Morty anymore. And I don't know. Unless I come up with something before next week, that's the final episode of that because next season we're not doing that, I don't think. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing.
We probably will. I mean, there's always these ONAs that are popping up throughout the year.
Yeah, but I don't know that we need to block them all together.
Oh, maybe
just
not.
Have them,
We're going to be making some changes to next season and probably each subsequent season just to make things better around here, make it more interesting.
Yes, no more pants.
Yep.
Change number 1.
Just shorts.
No.
No. Just chonies. I hope. Well, that brings us to My Hero Academia. Are you still refraining from speaking during this segment?
I talked about it last week.
Oh, okay.
Remember? It has
blocked it out.
It moved away from all the just people punching each other stuff.
That's true.
There's actual story here.
maybe for the sake of time, because I wrote down, tried to succinctly just put a button on each thing that happened in this.
This is a filler episode, so we can glaze over it pretty quickly.
Okay. So do you mind? Can I run through my thing real quick, and then we can get into details if we want, like just to sum it up. We'll see if you think this does it.
All right. Well, I have 3 sentences.
Oh, okay. But I'll just try. So there's a city. There's an attack in Deka City. That's how this opens.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some PR training that our heroes
with Mount Lady.
With Mount Lady, yeah, and
That's
they learn how to talk to reporters.
Mm-hmm.
And then their work study is resuming. We learn
later, but yeah,
which ties into COVID. Interestingly, it's like
we skipped over Christmas in the dorms.
Well, no, that's the final, the Xmas party, because we learn.
I think it was the other way around. I don't know.
Well, we see the conference table of all the teachers.
Oh,
and,
right.
And
okay,
the audience we learn first, and then
yeah, you're right.
And then we end with the Xmas party, and they talk about what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, and Deku doesn't have a place to go for his internship now.
Yes, and neither does Bakugo, or he's being a little weird about it.
And so Todoroki says, "Hey, why don't you come do an internship with my dad?" So that'll be cool.
Yeah, and that was a post-credit scene, but that got me really pumped for the next. Like, I like that dynamic, and in the preview, which we try not to delve too much into, but it definitely showed a lot of. We're going to see Hawks. We're going to see, they already set up some stuff with him. Some he's got a whole thing going.
He's a double agent.
Yes, yeah. Double agent. I kept thinking 2 timing, but those from what we did, what we're watching, that girlfriend show or whatever it was that we're not watching. But spoilers. Hey, a little intrigue there for stuff to come.
I mean, we might not be watching. I put a poll on Patreon today saying, "Hey, patrons, which of these shows should we definitely watch?"
And you only put shows that we're not watching on it.
I actually did like half and half of shows that we're both watching and shows that neither of us is watching.
Nice.
I didn't do any that just one of us is watching. So I put the ones that we're both watching already as sort of a distraction, to any people who might look for the worst possible thing.
Well, we have a total of 2 patrons, one of which has just recently gotten into anime, so we'll see what we get on that.
Wait, I thought last week we had 3.
Well, we did. I think, yeah. These things ebb and flow. I mean,
yeah, I know, it's fine.
We respect all the. We appreciate all the encouragement we get, financial or not.
All right, well, let's move on to I've been killing slimes for 300 years and accidentally maxed out my level, except the word accidentally is not in the English title for some reason, but I'm just throwing it in there because in Japanese, it's definitely accidentally.
All right.
All right, so this episode is titled I Ate a Mushroom and Turned into a Child. Now, guess who ate a mushroom and turned into a child? It's not already a child. I'll give you that hint.
Our main character?
Yeah, what's her name? Do you remember? There's like 2 names you could say. I'm just like stretching this out because I don't have much to say about this episode.
Yeah, I don't remember.
As soon as I say it, you'll remember it.
I'm sure.
Azusa?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the Witch of the Highlands.
Oh, the Witch of the Highlands.
Yes,
yeah.
Both of those are names that you can get. So yeah, our fan service elf is preparing some fried mushrooms for everyone. She went out into the forest and harvested mushrooms, and she says all the mushrooms that I picked in the forest are fine to eat. And then after Azusa eats one, she starts talking about how, oh yeah, I also found these mushrooms growing in my bedroom that I, threw in there as well. Oh, I think that was one of them. Oh yeah, those are called the gnome something mushroom. They make you turn small.
Oh.
So Azusa turns into a child.
Chibi.
And then she has to go on this adventure to get a cure, which it turns out is, remember a couple episodes ago where there was the imposter Witch of the Highlands who was making this great drug thing or something. Anyway.
It sounds familiar.
The cure is this drug, but at the end of the adventure they find out what that is. And anyway, it's all rather silly. And yeah, we can now move on to Shadow's House, episode 11. I think that was also the penultimate of slimes, right? Oh, 11 of 12, yeah. So 11 of 12 on that. And then Shadow's House, this is episode 11, so we got a couple more after this.
Got 2 more, which I'm happy about. This show has been a sleeper, I think. It's been slowly growing on me, ever increasingly. But we pick up with this episode, which we learn, I don't know, like we talked about last week, I think not that I took a huge leap, but I predicted, okay, now it's Kate's turn to try to figure some stuff out. She's got to help Emilico.
Yeah.
Emilico's been brainwashed by this coffee. And so she does just that, and she starts snooping around Emilico's little, room she has, a very tiny room.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, while she's in there, she finds her journal that she had kept kind of sort of secret. She was kind of hiding it.
She hadn't told Kate about it.
Yeah, and she had it, like, it wasn't, like, on top of her desk. It was, like, kind of, like, tucked under, it was, so she didn't find it right away. But then she finds it, and, Emilico writes in there, like, oh, these are all the things that I shouldn't be thinking about. I'm going to write them down. And she's like, you'd think that would, just make you think about them more because you're more fresh in your mind. But then I think there's something written in there about the soot sickness.
Yes.
And about how drinking water is
the cure for it.
Is a cure, something to help you alleviate that. And so this leads to a scene where Kate forces Emilico, who is still, of course, subservient, but has lost connection with her herself, like her true self. She's
more subservient even.
Yes, even more,
because of this,
and more not only subservient to Kate, but to the Shadow's house
in general.
Yeah, at large.
And Kate does not physically force her. It's just through this persuasion.
Yes. Well, she listens to what Kate says.
Yeah.
And Kate says, drink water. So she drinks a glass of water.
And drink some more.
And drink some more.
I drink some more.
And it goes on.
I drink some more.
And on.
I drink some more.
And it's not, I'm
oh,
not.
You drank so much now you're throwing up? All right, well, throw up and then drink some more.
Not until you burst into tears will I tell you to stop. But it turns out that was all it took. But yeah, that scene was, I'm not going to say it was like, could be in the movie 7 or something. But was kind of like approaching that territory of just a little bit of just being uncomfortable. Like it was an effective scene for me, or it was like, like you totally understand that she's doing this because she is subservient to Kate, and that she has to listen to her, right? Especially with the brainwashing, right?
Yeah.
She can't disobey her, but it's like as it goes on and on, Emilico starts to, be concerned about it, but she still keeps doing it, and it's a little hard to watch. It's not the most gruesome thing I've ever seen, but it was nice in this show. Like I like it's getting increasingly darker, and this helped to elevate that. And then what happens after that? Yeah,
so it breaks the soot spell from the drinking of the coffee thing, and
it works.
And then Kate, now she can trust Emilico again, I guess, and she sort of lays some things out that we didn't really know about.
Yeah.
Or that we didn't know that Kate knew about, I guess.
Yeah, and we didn't really know either.
We didn't really know all of these things, yeah.
They do show a scene where we learn that there are like common villagers outside of the Shadow's house.
Yes.
And yeah, that.
And yeah, so the thing that that Kate tells Emilico is that living dolls are actually just humans that have been abducted and brainwashed, basically. And then we see the scene of some of the elder Shadow's house members taking a train, going out of town, and selecting new quote-unquote living dolls.
Yes.
Which are just human children from the village that the villagers give up readily because they get...
It's like an honor.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like a weird thing. And they're all semi-brainwashed because of the soot or something. They say something about that too. So yeah. So that's where dolls come from. They're not really like dolls. And you had said early on that the doll technology is just amazing. And yeah. Turns out they're not just human-like; they are humans.
But yeah, there's a reason they're so lifelike.
Yes,
they are life.
Yeah.
And that's great. I love it. Like that is it seems so simple. I hadn't I assume I think I considered it, but I hadn't been like, oh, that's what it is. I wasn't convinced of it. I was like, where is this going? But then last week's episode, we learned that the Shadows House members are considered, quote unquote, from Edward, quote unquote, parasitic fairies. Like, oh, that's
yes.
interesting. And so now, in the context of that, and what we've learned with this episode, it's like, they, from what you were saying, the common folk being infected with the soot and stuff, it's like they are just infecting this whole community. Like, who knows how big it is? But they are just pure.
One thing I was thinking about when the Elder Shadows members go to the town to select new children to bring to Shadows House, if they were children from that town, because they're hiding their sootiness and they're just showing human faces, right?
Yeah.
If they were children from that town, wouldn't the people of that town whose children they were possibly recognize them? I mean, it's been years, I guess, but
You'd think so.
But they did say there's multiple towns, so maybe they just make sure that they never send someone
Maybe.
to the town that they're from or something. I don't know.
But it seems like, I mean, when we see this scene where they go like recruit some children and they line them all line up,
Yeah.
and they pick them. The parents of the children who are picked are so happy, they're so elated, and it kind of seems like going along with that they're never going to see them again.
Yeah.
But they're so happy that they're going to have a better life and they're going to be a part of the aristocracy, as it were.
Yes.
But that's not really as glorified as they might think it is.
Yeah.
So yeah. So and then in the midst of this, Emiliko is kidnapped.
Well, Milko disappears.
She disappears.
We don't know she's kidnapped until later.
That's true. Yeah, I'm just trying to.
So Emiliko is in her room and hears a knock on her door and is like, "Oh, what's this?" And then she has disappeared, and Kate freaks out and is looking sort of everywhere for her and goes and talks to, who does she go to first? John, I think.
John, yeah.
Yeah, John. And then they involve Lou and Louise.
Yeah. Well, she has
And
this whole
then-
scene with John where she's trying to he already likes her, right? So he's more receptive to hearing what she has to say. And she, in a kind of
forgot about that
comedic
funny
scene, convinces him that something's afoot. And she's like, haven't you noticed like a change in Sean, from all of this? And then there's a funny exchange where Kate had Emiliko, I wrote down waterboarding.
Yeah, it's not what waterboarding is.
No,
but
I know,
okay.
but it's like a polite form of it. When you have a slave, I mean, they do everything you say. I mean, it's essentially. But yeah, it's not technical waterboarding. But she does that with the water trick on Emiliko. But then John ends up just beating the shit out of Sean, beating
they just
him.
have like a knockdown drag out fight.
And I wrote out beating him out of submission is really what happens.
Yeah, basically.
And it was a cool moment, where they, John seems like a simple guy, he's not. There's nothing too complicated about him. He's just he hadn't noticed it at all, which is okay, that's kind of strange. There's a clear change, and then once Kate says something about it, he starts, Sean walks in the room and he starts to notice all these things, and he's it all starts to add up, and then he's just all right, well, I'm just have to beat you until you until you change. He's just so simple-minded in that way, I guess. But it's really funny and a bit endearing. But yeah, she wins them over, and
Yes, because what you want is someone who, when they don't know what to do and they have a problem, is they beat the crap out of you. That's what you should look for in a relationship, ladies or gentlemen or whoever you are.
That was a man-to-man disagreement over brainwashing. Anyway, no, yeah, I agree with you. I was trying to justify
because
it.
the initial thing is when Kate shows up, John thinks that she's there because he had basically propositioned her earlier and said, I'm really into you, and if you're into me, come meet me in my room. And so when she first shows up, he's like, "Oh, you decided that you want to marry me?
Sweet.
Yes!" And then he proves that his only reaction to things he doesn't like is to get physically violent.
I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's
not a good way to catch a lady.
I mean, I agree with that, but it is a little attractive from Kate's perspective that he listened to her and took in what she said, evaluated Sean in light of that, and came to a conclusion that she was right.
And came to a conclusion that he needed to beat the crap out of him.
Well, yeah, it's that decision that is a bit extreme, but it worked. So I don't know. What do you say after the fact? It's like, well, you could have just given him a bunch of water.
Probably a better way to do it. Yeah, that's what I would say after the fact. Yeah.
But that scene was
like that's the thing you jump to. I mean, I don't know.
That scene was hard to watch for me, but yeah.
Anyway, yeah, let's move on. So then after that, Lou and what's Patrick's guy's name?
Ricky.
Yeah. All of them show up. Lou, Louise, Patrick, Ricky.
Yeah, they kind of have a meeting of the minds.
Yeah. And Louise actually comes around on the whole thing, which is kind of surprising because she seems to be buying into the family line pretty hard for most of it. And then she sort of does a 180 all of a sudden.
What's interesting to me is that Kate was trying, I think, not because with John, I think she knew that she could kind of reach him because he liked her and stuff. That, the barriers had kind of been broken down. But I think when it came to Louise and Ricky, she realized that she shouldn't push so hard this whole conspiracy about how the dolls are actual people. And I don't know if she would. It just kind of came about, once they realized that, because in this meeting, Louise had seen someone who was pushing a cart that seemingly could have had a doll in it.
It was a tall, I don't remember what they call them, but
yeah, like tall figure.
One of the maids of some sort, but not one of the. I don't remember. They have these different classifications.
Yeah,
like there's the star bearers, and there it wasn't a star bearer, but it was somewhere in between. Anyway.
And they were wearing some sort of cloak or something, but underneath the cloak, Louise was perceptive enough to notice the clothing design that could only be Edward. And so she narrowed it down to Edward must have kidnapped Miliko. That's what it seemed like. And so they go off of this, and so that's what gets Louise. The common thread between all of them is they don't like Edward based on what just happened with the debut.
Yeah.
So it's not like she convinced John of everything, of the whole conspiracy and like everything that's going on, because it definitely seems like Kate, like she hid her soot powers in the debut until she had to use them, and she used them to great effect, and they they just barely made it, right? Just barely passed. But that was all in pursuit of trying to undermine this whole organization, right? Because she already knew. She was trying to get Miliko to show her true colors and become herself. But she didn't know about the coffee. I'm assuming she learned of that late. And so in light of that, she's got John on her side, but everyone else, it's kind of like, all right, we don't like Edwards. Let's start there. Let's just save Miliko. And like, because I noticed that whole conversation like switched to just like, screw Edward, not, we're being played for fools.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, and that's pretty much where the episode ends, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's all set up. We got 2 more episodes left, but it's all set up seemingly to save Miliko and topple this Shadow's house. Like, I don't know if they have enough time to do that, but
yeah, I don't know. Probably not, but
yeah.
I guess the only other thing we see is confirmation that it is Edward and he has kidnapped Miliko, right?
Yes,
because initially it's sort of speculation on their part that he was pushing a cart and it had, this large sack that was about the size of a living doll. And anyway, yeah.
Did they actually show Edward? I mean, I know there was a scene where like she's like, "Why are you doing this? Who are you?" And I didn't know.
Maybe not.
I can't remember if it was revealed if it was him, but it definitely seemed like it was obviously him. But
yeah, maybe they didn't actually show Edward. I don't know. Well, we'll find out next episode.
We shall.
And until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of our lives. Thank you for making us a part of your life.
And thank you for being a friend.
Thank you for being a friend. We've been back again.
Goodbye, friends.
Yeah, we're on all the socials if you got anything you want to say to us. Like anime, UMLIKEANIME. And I don't know. I say it every time. If this is your first time listening, go back and listen to like an older episode. You'll hear me do the whole spiel like really good. At this point, we're 30 episodes in. I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over.
We got a Patreon. Leave comments on YouTube or Twitter. All right, see you next week or later this week. One of those. Both of those.
Sunday? We'll see you Sunday.
Sunday, and look out for our What We'll Be Watching episode. It'll come out this week as well.
It's going to come out sometime. We're not sure when.
It'll
Do you know when?
Week. It'll come out this week.
All right. Sweet.
Like
so keep
Thursday.
an eye out for that.
Like
Thursday? I would like Thursday. Thursday would be my ideal day for that to
Thursday
come out.
be nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, look out for that on Thursday. And if it's not there, you know who to blame.
Yep.
Bye.